Hello everyone, this is The Last Word and I'm Marya Shakil. As the curtains come down in the 17th Lok Sabha, the Modi government has decided to go all out to corner the Congress on the question of economy. In the white paper tabled by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman in Parliament today, the government says it faced a hydra-headed challenge in fixing the Indian economy and restoring its fundamentals to sound health. It noted it received one of the world's most fragile economies. The white paper also says that in 2014, the UPA government had inherited a healthy economy from Prime Minister Vajpayee. But an economist Prime Minister in Dr. Manmohan Singh made it a non-performing one in 10 years. In an all-out attack on the Congress ahead of the Lok Sabha elections, the centre accused the UPA government, which went out of office in 2014, of leaving behind an unenviable legacy of a structurally weaker economy and a pervasive atmosphere of despondency. Calling it a lost decade, the UPA, that's what the centre has said, the UPA in fact had left a trail of economic mismanagement and short-sighted handling of the public finances and undermining the macroeconomic foundations. The government abandoned the principles, I'm quoting from the white paper, that brought about the economic liberalization. There was widespread corruption, financial indiscipline is what the centre has said, slamming the Manmohan government on a day which is rather ironical that his tenure, Dr. Manmohan Singh's tenure as a member of the Rajya Sabha came to an end. First, let's listen in to all the reactions that have come in and then I bring in the guests.
आज देश पिछले 10 साल में समृद्धि के नए शिखर सर कर रहा है। एक भव्य दिव्य वातावरण बना है, उसको नजर न लग जाए, इसलिए काला टीका करने का प्रयास हुआ है। मैं उसके लिए भी खड़गे जी का बहुत धन्यवाद करता हूं, ताकि इस हमारी प्रगति की यात्रा को कोई नजर न लग जाए। ये नजर न लग जाए इसलिए आपने आज जो काला टीका किया है, मैं तो सोच रहा था सब काले कपड़ों में आएंगे, लेकिन शायद काला जादू खिंचते ब्लैक पेपर तक चला गया है, लेकिन फिर भी मैं उसका भी स्वागत करता हूं।
हम एक आज ब्लैक पेपर अगेंस्ट द गवर्नमेंट निकाल रहे हैं, क्योंकि वो हमेशा अपनी बात को पार्लियामेंट में जब रखते हैं तो बार बार अपनी कामयाबियों को सुनाते हैं और उनके फेल्यूर्स को छुपाते हैं।
Let me bring in Rajiv Kumar, economist and author, and also former Vice Chairman of Niti Aayog. Jabi Mathur is a member of the Rajya Sabha of the Congress Party. Naren Taneja, spokesperson of the BJP. We also have Dharani Dharan, spokesperson of DMK. Let me bring in Rajiv Kumar. Rajiv Kumar, I appreciate your time. I'm looking at this white paper. Would you say a white paper of this nature was necessary at all? I mean, the last 2 years of UPA did see a lot of corruption. I was among the reporters who reported on it. What is the need of talking about it right now after 10 years? When you have turned around this economy, you claim to turn around this economy. I mean, I'm talking about the government.
Well, Myra, I think it's important to bring out such a paper just to let people know, what are the alternatives they are facing, and for them to make an informed choice. And the paper itself is full of facts and data, and been well brought out, so that it is there for everybody then to judge as to what was then and what is now. Never any harm in comparing then and now, and then to improve upon it. Also the fact that they've been able to list in this in one place whatever they've been able to achieve in the last 10 years.
And Professor Kumar, the point certainly is that one of the big takeaways of this white paper is the banking crisis, which they say was one of the most important and infamous legacies of the UPA government. And then it also says that the banking crisis in 2014 was massive and an absolute sum at stake was too large. How did the government really turn around this aspect, and the larger pervasive mood which was there of despondency? As someone who worked in Niti Aayog, what was the challenge like?
Yeah, and Marya, just to remind you, I've also worked as an economic advisor to Dr. Manmohan Singh.
That's right.
Between 91 to 95. So I've seen the government at work in many ways. The banking crisis was the creation of what had become, unfortunately, the phone banking situation. I should take names, under the then finance minister, Mr. Pranab Mukherjee. And this is now documented today even in the Business Standard by Arvind Subramaniam.
That's right.
The whole banking system had become, in some sense, not working on norms or on some processes, but on word of mouth. And as a result of that, a lot of banks had their balance sheets in a very terrible situation. What this government has done is to, one, recapitalize those banks in a major way. I think there were two tranches of that recapitalization, that they found the money from the budget to recapitalize the public sector banks. Plus, they merged some of the banks, to try and get them greater strength and scale. So that's how they cleaned up the banking system, and which has been a major thing to do. Now, people have said that at that time the credit growth from the banking sector was much higher than what it is today. But that credit growth was, now it seems clearly, was unsustainable. I hope what the government has done, that the credit growth to industry and to infrastructure will increase further than what it is today, but at least the balance sheet would permit that to happen if the right kind of shelf of projects were to be created.
And what about the external borrowing? It says that in an era where capital flows dominate, India's external vulnerability shot up because of over-dependence on external commercial borrowings.
That's also true, quite significantly, and that is the reason for which we had a deceleration of the rupee. But again, I am not so sure that the vulnerability was of the same order as that was in 1989, 1990. But the fact that the external commercial borrowings were permitted for the private sector did mean that they could contribute to capital formation in the economy, and they did in some ways. But at the same time, it was going out of hand, because the ratio of external borrowing, total external borrowing to GDP had gone up quite steeply at that time.
All right. Professor Rajiv Kumar, I appreciate your time, and let me go back to the panelists. Nareen Taneja, beginning with you, has the government shied away from addressing questions which the opposition has been asking, particularly to do with food inflation and job creation?
Well, I think you look at both the fronts. I mean, the situation is, if you compare it, what we had experienced when they were in power is much better. And even on food security, just go and talk with the ordinary people on the ground. I mean, everybody is happy because we have been able to, not only take care of the day-to-day requirements, in fact, provide them the kind of household food security. And that's why precisely the reason across the country you see that people are, supporting us, not only in, state elections, even in the local election. But you see, the important point here is that they may say whatever. The fact remains, you may ask this question, why didn't we come out with a white paper, let's say 2 years before or 5 years before, or as soon as we have moved in? The reason was very simple. The economy was in such a bad shape. And we realized what we got to do first in order to send the right message, both internally and externally, that look, We just have to first go on and do whatever necessary to bring the economy to the good health. That was our priority. At that time, imagine in 2015, 2016, had we talked about all those things, that would have created a bad image for the country. For us, Congress is not important, UP is not important, the country's economy was important. That's precisely the reason. But now we think, now that, from fragile five, India's economy was from fragile five, we are now one of the top economies in the world. We are among the top five on nominal basis, but when you look at on PPP basis, we are already the third largest economy in the world.
Okay.
And
Okay.
just one point I want to make. Remember those days, 2012, 2013. Look at the headlines in newspapers, television channels, including your channel. It was all about scams. It's all about corruption. It's all about who is the real prime minister, who actually controls the power, who has got the remote control. From there to where?
JB, the fact is that the UPA government and the leadership did celebrate the 1991 reforms, and rightly so. But why did it abandon the same idea coming to power in 2004 is what is being said in this white paper. JB, if you can hear me.
First of all,
yes,
about the white paper.
Yes.
Yeah, I can. First of all, about the white paper. When white paper, okay, the timing itself is when they should have come up with a white paper at the time they came into power. They don't do that. 10 years, and then after 10 years, when the parliament election is just about the corner, they come with a white paper and with zero discussion. There's absolutely no discussion about it. We challenge the government, come discuss, let's discuss both white paper and what we have brought out, black paper. But the government is adamant that they just want to table it. They just want to create a atmosphere and say about UPA mein ye hua, ye hua, ye hua. Hello, they should at least, first of all, why do we have a parliament? In parliament, we should discuss, not just table it. Now, secondly, we have seen 10 years of devastation in our country. Take any front, take the rate of unemployment our country is going through. Can anybody disagree if I say that unemployment is at a 45-year high now? Can anyone disagree that? They don't want to talk about it. Now, price rise, all commodities are at an all-time high. They don't want to talk about inflation. They don't want to talk about price rise. You take any example. You take the example of petrol or diesel or food items, milk, everything, the kind of percentage. In our black paper, we have come up with the percentage of increase that has happened. Now, when all these issues are there, they were the reason to bring the white paper is to cover up their failures.
Okay, so you are saying that this is an attempt
exactly what is
at
happening.
cover up.
They want
okay,
the discussion to be taken.
Of course, you have addressed the inflation trend in UPA years, Naren Taneja, but it also doesn't give a clear picture of what you did on the inflation front in your tenure.
Well, first of all, my friend from the Congress party is saying that, we don't want to have a discussion. We are having discussions, practically every hour. Our work speaks. Hamara kaam bol raha hai. We are having conversation with the people on the ground. We are having conversations with farmers. We are having conversations with women. We are having conversation, with industries. We are having conversation, even, people belonging to the Congress party in different parts of the country. You see, the point is that, even here, what are your priority? Mr. Rahul Gandhi, who's the kind of, supreme leader of the Congress party, his focus is what? His focus is to instigate the South. Instigate for what? For the disintegration of the country. That's your priority. Caste, census, that's your priority. And even when you come out, you're talking of Anyay. Anyay what? Explain. Where is the injustice? We have got Supreme Court, we have High Courts, we have got the biggest court on the, in the country called the People's Court. We are going there. We have come out with a white paper to have communication with the people. Look, we didn't do that earlier because we didn't want to harm the image of the country or investment flow or expansion of the economy. That was our priority. Was not Congress. Our priority was the country's economy. We have done that. And now we have come out with this thing. As the country goes to the people, we are saying, look, here we are. This is what we experienced the last 10 years. We kept mum. But at the same time, now that from fragile 5 to among the top 5, IMF says, not we, that we are the fastest growing economy
come
on the
on?
planet.
Okay,
Today,
Mr.
from when
Dharnidharan.
you left, we were
Mr.
not even 2
Dharnidharan,
trillion.
you
We
know,
are close to 4 trillion now dollar economy now.
the report says that the UPA government's decade of governance or its absence was marked by policy and misadventures and scams, such as non-transparent auction of public resources, coal and telecom spectrum. And of course, your party did face charges particularly to do with telecom spectrum.
See,
The
let
point
me.
here is that
No, can I answer, please?
Yes,
See,
please, go ahead.
So let me first rebut the BJP
And it also
spokesperson.
says that India's telecom sector lost a precious decade due to the 2G
Absolutely.
scam and policy paralysis.
absolutely.
No, so let me come and firstly rebut the BJP spokesperson. So he says the economy is doing really well. I disagree. The first and foremost, only a few months back, the Wall Street Journal wrote that India's economy looks shaky under the hood, and the IMF also said Indian debt could rise more than 100% of the GDP in the next coming years. Also, having said that, let me not talk about the National Food Security Act. 10 crore people are left out of it only simply because this government does not want to conduct census. And because we don't conduct census, we don't know exactly how many people in this country are living and how many people are under the poverty line and how many people need help through the Security Act. Food Security Act. And because of that, 10 crore people are left out. Let me go further and not talk about per capita GDP, right? Under UPA grew 180%, under this government grew only 58%. BJP thinks if you keep lying repeatedly, it becomes a truth. In the parliament, via the prime minister and via the spokesperson they have. Investment as percentage of GDP in UPA was 34%, and in the last 10 years is only 25%. Exports as a percent of GDP was 22% in the UPA, now much lesser. Manufacturing, let me not talk about Make in India, was 17% under the UPA, and now balance of trade with China is record high, about 6 lakh crores, if I'm not wrong. And Prime Minister promised to create 2 crore jobs each year. Do we have 2 crore jobs created each year? No. Unemployment in the age group of 20 to 24, according to CMIE, is about 50%. Prime Minister promised to double.
This specific point.
Very important point. Prime
Yes.
Minister promised to double farmers' income in 2014, right? In next 10 years. But right now, in real terms, the farmers' income are reduced. 1 lakh farmers have committed suicide in the last decade. 30 suicides per day on an average. And
you
very
are
important,
talking
rural
about-
consumption
Let me
has been failing.
let me
Rural
counter.
consumption
Yes,
has been
please go
failing.
ahead, Naren Taneja.
Last 2018 rural
Because the
consumption
charge is that it's
One more
all very
point.
well to come out with these papers and the documents, but the reality may be different. That's what the opposition says.
You see, let me counter my friend from DMK point by point. He talked about Wall Street Journal and IMF. No, IMF repeatedly, please just go and Google IMF repeatedly saying India is among the hot stars on the planet in terms of economy. That's IMF. Wall Street Journal, the same Wall Street, by the way, this is a media platform, they can say whatever, but even Wall Street Journal has come out with a kind of, not once, but several times, repeatedly, quoting India, citing India as a shining destination in terms of investment. Now you talk about the, debt to GDP ratio. China's debt to GDP ratio is 300%. 300%. Japan is 255%. America is 130%. Are you trying to say that all these companies have gone bankrupt or these are dead economies? I mean, our GDP, when you grow economy, when you're expanding economy, of course the debt is also going to go up, but it's all manageable. This is all within we know what we are doing. But at the same time, look, we talked about manufacturing. Your home state is one of the biggest beneficiaries of our policies. We have encouraged manufacturing in your state. If you are becoming the hub of automobile sector, look at the role that we are playing in that. So let's not think in those. Point is, when it comes to economy, you just can't lie. The fact is, you go across the country from east to west, north to south, you see economic activities, infrastructure development, cranes, construction everywhere. And that's the reason people are happy. You see, according to you and the Congress, only those who get the government job are employed. We never said the government job. We said we'll create employment, and we have done that. If you go by your definition and the definition of Congress party, all those who don't
Okay,
work for the
I have
government,
just
who
enough
work
time
for
for
the government,
final
they are all
comments. Yes,
unemployed.
please. JB,
So
go
that's
ahead.
not the way
First
to do
you,
it.
and then I bring
You
in
just have to
Dharani
go by
Dharan.
anecdotal
Yes,
This
please.
is
Go ahead,
10
JB.
years. This is 10 years of Anyay Kal by the Modi government. This is 10 years of Anyay Kal. And to cover
What is
up that
Anyay? Can you
Anyay Kal,
explain?
they want to put the blame and bring some stories of UPA, which is not the right method. They should answer. Farmers are in distress. Women are attacked. There is so much of rapes happening in the country. Youth do not have employment. People do not have the essential commodities. The price is so high. They don't have answers for all this, and they just want to try to hide it by saying that everything is fine and good in the country, which is not true. I again challenge, let's have a discussion in the parliament. They don't want to talk about white paper in the parliament. They just want to table it. This is 10 years of Anyay Kal, and people will give a perfect reply in the forthcoming election.
Dharani
to the
Dharan,
BJP
quickly
and to
from
the
you,
NDA
and
for
then
this-
Narendra
for
Taneja
this
will give
kind
the
of-
final
Can I
response.
just comment, please?
Yes.
See, India ranks 111th out of 125 countries in hunger index. You need to say more. I'll tell you, 2019, the consumption survey showed consumption in rural areas has drastically reduced in India. You know what does this government do? They stop the consumption surveys whatsoever. If you talk to most CEOs, right, they say that retail sales in like biscuits, like soaps, have remained stagnant or reduced in rural areas. So there's no consumption. What are you talking about growth? Let's talk about real wages. The real wages has been stagnant, and for the bottom 50 percentile, the real wages is reduced. Countries' inequality is at an unacceptable level. I'll tell you, I'll quote Oxfam right now. Currently, under this government, inequality has risen to the so high, so much level that that the top richest 21 people in this country have as much wealth as the bottom 80 crore people.
Okay.
This is how appealing this report is.
Exactly.
And we have to talk
Narendra
about
Taneja, this is the criticism that is coming in. That you claim that all's well, then why are 80 crore people in this country getting free ration? You know, that's one argument. The other argument is, yes, there is infrastructure push that is happening all across India. But when it comes to the CMI data, which the opposition usually quotes, that doesn't really capture it. Then the government should have its own index. Why hasn't that effort been made to come across with a new set of index to show the real picture of job creation?
Listen, I mean, if you get your sources are Oxfam, your sources are all the, then I really sympathize with you. We all know the officer headed in Delhi. What they do. Let's not go by that. The fact is, to Marya, to answer your question, the fact is that when we look around the people, we still think that these are the people. There are still some people, significant number of people who need hand-holding, who need some support. So when we mobilize and provide them some, security in terms of food, basically we are strengthening them economically, socially. That's the agenda. And by the way, when you talk of per capita, which my friend from the DMK talks about, per capita doesn't include that. Per capita does include the food support that they get from the central government. It doesn't include the cash transfer that they get, or that subsidy. It doesn't include that.
Oh, it
you
doesn't
have to
include.
add all that to reach to the right figure. So don't buy figures which come out of London and New York. Do your own homework. Have you done any report? Tell me where exactly. The fact is that BJP has taken care of each and every Indian in terms of food security. That's the reason they are supporting us. That's the reason that we talk
Narendra Taneja, Salim, Dharani Dharan and Jabi Mathur, thank you so much. Of course, the white paper is yet to be debated in Parliament. Let's see how that pans out. We haven't really heard clearly from the former Finance Minister of India what his views are on these 10 years, which the present government says was about complete policy paralysis. I'll be coming next, in fact, tomorrow to you with another episode. That's all from me. Thanks so much for watching.